The sun spilled through the glass panels of the Grand International Airport, casting long golden streaks across the tiled floor as travelers rushed in all directions. Amid the noise of rolling suitcases, hurried announcements, and the bustle of crowds, a sudden sharp bark sliced through the air, urgent, fierce, unlike anything anyone had heard before. A police dog named Rocco lunged against his handler's grip, his body trembling, ears pinned, eyes locked on a little girl standing near gate 17. People paused, startled. The girl froze. And then Rocco barked again, louder, desperate, as though warning the world that something terrible was moments away. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, pause for a moment, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our W Insights to support more emotional, inspiring stories like this one. The little girl, 7-year-old Irina Malik, stood clutching a small pink backpack to her chest. She had wide hazel eyes that reflected confusion more than fear. She was traveling alone for the very first time, sent by her aunt to meet her parents who were waiting at the other end of the city. Just minutes earlier, she had been humming softly to herself, enjoying the lunchtime brightness, unaware of the storm quietly gathering around her. But now, her heart pounded as the German shepherd's sharp, hollow barks grew louder. The dog suddenly dragged his handler across the floor, fighting to reach Irina. Travelers gasped and stepped back. A few raised their phones to record. The airport security team rushed forward. Rocco kept barking over and over until the sound echoed so intensely that people stopped talking, stopped walking, they simply watched. Inside the airport command center, security officers glanced at each other, uncertain whether the dog had detected danger or was reacting uncontrollably. The handler, Officer Trenton Shaw, tried to calm the dog, but Rocco, usually obedient, calm, and highly trained, would not stop. His tail wasn't wagging. His posture wasn't aggressive. Instead, he looked terrified, panicked, almost pleading. That alone sent a chill down Trenton's spine. Rocco wasn't behaving like a dog detecting explosives. This was something different, something deeper. Irina took one small step forward, trembling. Her tiny voice cracked as she whispered, "Is he mad at me?" But before anyone could answer, Rocco barked again and pulled so hard that the leash slipped out of Trenton's hand. The dog sprinted straight toward Irina. Gasps filled the air. A woman screamed. And then, everything happened at once. Rocco reached Irina, circled her, nudged her backpack hard, and barked toward her chest repeatedly. He wasn't attacking, he was trying to warn. Trenton finally caught up, breathless. He knelt beside the girl and gently touched the backpack. "May I see what you're carrying?" he asked softly. Irina nodded slowly, confused. When he unzipped the bag, his eyes widened. Inside was not a bomb. Not a weapon. Not anything dangerous. Instead, there was a small metal box wrapped tightly in an old cloth. The cloth was damp with sweat, and the box had scorch marks on it as if it had been exposed to intense heat. Trenton lifted it carefully, immediately sensing something odd. It was warm. Way too warm. Heat radiated from it like an engine that had been running non-stop. The box wasn't hers. Irina had no idea it was inside. Someone had slipped it into her bag when her aunt wasn't looking. Fear washed through the officer. But before he could act, Rocco barked again, nudging the box. Trenton quickly called for backup. Within seconds, airport security sealed off gate 17. People stared in silent confusion and rising panic as officers evacuated the area. Rocco stood protectively beside Irina, gently licking her hand whenever she cried. In the emergency response room, specialists examined the box. It wasn't an explosive, but inside was a device emitting dangerous levels of chemical heat, unstable enough to catch fire spontaneously. Had Rocco not detected the overheating smell, the box could have ignited inside the bag while Irina was walking near fuel lines connected to a small airport service vehicle. The potential consequences were unimaginable. One shrink-wrapped box could have caused a chain reaction capable of endangering hundreds of lives. Trenton watched Rocco from a distance, feeling a mix of admiration and deep gratitude. "You saved them," he whispered, his voice unsteady. But Rocco wasn't done. He kept pacing, sniffing Irina's backpack again and again, whining anxiously, as though he sensed something more. When Irina sat down, clutching her chest, Rocco pressed his head against her side and whimpered. Something was wrong. Irina's breathing was shallow. Her lips trembled. Her forehead glistened with sweat. Panic rose again as she suddenly fainted. Rocco pressed his nose against her hand, then barked urgently, summoning help. Medics rushed in. They examined Irina quickly and realized that her heart rate was dropping too fast. She had a rare heart condition that sometimes became triggered by sudden shock or stress. Her aunt had forgotten her medication at home that morning in the rush. Now the panic of the evacuation and heat from the box had overloaded her small body. Every second mattered. Rocco remained beside her as medics treated her. His eyes were soft, ears low, tail still, pure empathy radiating from the trained protector. He wasn't just doing his job now. He was worried for her. As the medics stabilized Irina, the airport lights flickered. A hush fell over the mass of travelers who anxiously watched through the glass walls. 1,000 people stood silent, waiting, hoping. Irina slowly regained consciousness, her eyes fluttering open. The first thing she saw was Rocco's face. His big dark eyes watched her carefully. She lifted her weak hand to gently stroke his fur, and the dog rested his head on her palm like he was giving her a promise of safety. Tears streamed down her cheeks. The medics assured everyone that she would be okay with proper medication and rest. Outside the emergency room, Trenton stood leaning against the wall. His hands shook. If Rocco had not acted. If Rocco had ignored the smell of overheating chemicals. If Rocco had not sensed Irina's collapsing heart. He swallowed hard at the thought. The reality hit him. Rocco wasn't just a canine dog. He was a hero. News spread rapidly. Cameras captured the scene, passengers cried, strangers hugged, and airport staff stared in disbelief. The world went from chaos to silence, from silence to overwhelming relief. Rocco stayed by Irina's side the entire time, his body curled protectively around her legs as if shielding her from any harm that might come next. Hours later, the airport resumed operations. Irina's parents arrived, their faces streaked with tears after being urgently notified. They ran to their daughter, collapsing to their knees beside her. Irina hugged her mother tightly, then turned toward Rocco. She whispered something inaudible, but her gesture said enough, her small arms wrapped tightly around the dog's neck. Rocco didn't move. He simply stood there, allowing himself to be embraced. When Trenton approached, Irina's father spoke in a shaky voice, "Your dog saved our daughter's life. Twice." Trenton looked at Rocco, unable to hide the emotion welling in his eyes. "He listens to his heart more than his training sometimes," he replied quietly. The airport director later held a small ceremony right in the terminal. Passengers stopped their hurried steps to watch as Rocco received a Medal of Honor. People clapped. Some cried. Many smiled with pride. But what touched everyone the most was when Irina walked forward, still fragile, holding Rocco's medal ribbon in her trembling fingers. She placed her forehead against his and whispered, "Thank you for choosing me.